in terms of pipes, laying of pipes and water inside between Nandone and Sami, which will then see water arriving in Sami Dam and then pumped into the treatment plant that we are refurbishing or are going to start refurbishing very soon, and then to reservoirs, and then reticulated to communities. We will not be able to deliver water at the same time to all 55, but we're targeting the first 24 that will receive water in October. This year we still stand on that one, on that time frame. We are making progress, and we almost, the three of us, between the three of us, have to do a rotation. If Makatsi is there, then we're elsewhere, and then when she leaves, Mahlobo will get there, and then when he leaves, and then I will get there. We just have to stay there, so that whatever seeks to delay or derail our program there gets fixed on the spot. And this also covers Malamlele, which will see the completion of the reservoirs by February next year. But in Mopani villages, we are set to deliver water finally and put the Giyani saga to rest, and we are working hard on that. Of course, in Gauteng, we still have a gripe with issues of Hammanskraal. The way Tshwane as a city or as a water service authority are dealing with this matter. We are in the final stages of discussing this matter with Tshwane. They are dragging a little bit behind. We are getting them on so that we finalize our agreement with them as an option that we finally opted for, that we negotiate and negotiate harder with them. Of course, as soon as we agree or strike the agreement, we will want it to become a court order so that Tshwane finally deliver on their responsibility with the money that they have, which has been dragging behind for quite some time, causing anger in Hammanskraal. So we are not out of Hammanskraal. We have not forgotten Hammanskraal. We are dealing with their matter, but on a sustainable basis. It was thought that it's better that we negotiate our way with Tshwane and deliver finally on this matter by refurbishing and reviving all the schemes in their system. In the Free State, we have intervened. We are intervening via Bloom Water in water and sanitation, in the main in Machabeng. We have an agreement that we will see dust in September in Machabeng on a number of projects that we are dealing with, particularly and by and large is on water and sanitation infrastructure in Machabeng. We are working closely with the mayor there, so that we clean up the whole of Machabeng of sewage, but deliver clean water and clean sewer systems. Mangaung, there are a number of things that we're fixing up with them on water, from meters to billing and all of that. In Kopanong, Bloom Water is in there, and in Maluta Pofung. Things are improving, and there's a lot of turnaround in those areas. We will get to other places in the Free State that require us. We are aware that there are some other areas other than these that require our intervention. In due course, we'll be getting there. And in KZN, we're dealing with issues of reviving the two aqueducts but that were heavily damaged. And while eThekwini are dealing with their main pipes to deliver, particularly in the south, which I think they've done with success, the challenge remains in the north, that is in Otongati. I think all of us are aware of the anger of people in Otongati. We are attending to that because by and large there's been tracking of water there, but people are saying they want more than tankered water. So first, it's about strengthening delivery of water via tankers, because it is real that infrastructure was largely damaged during the storms, and the most urgent thing that could be done by eThekwini municipality, together with us intervening and assisting, it would have been via trucking water, but many other temporal measures. But we will be attending to the proposals, even though they came via anger on the people. We will be engaging them and we will be talking to them this afternoon, addressing exactly what they are talking about, and we hope we'll do that with success. It's a question of communicating effectively with one another and creating an understanding of what is happening out there, and also listening to people in terms of what else can be done and embarking on those. But we are aware of another hotspot in the north, in the Skawini township in KZN. We are intervening there. We need to intervene in Platuze municipality. There's a lot of underperformance. There's a lot of, I think, some of it historical, but in by and large, we need to talk about what they need to do now and what we need to do. It's a situation in which we may need to intervene directly and deal with official processes of dealing with water directly in Skawini, because they've been suffering for quite a long time. And we are aware of it and we are addressing it, first temporarily, but it's imperative that we are going to have to think, not for a long time, concretely about addressing the issues of water in Skawini, in Mpangeni. Umkhanyakude as well, it's an area of intervention. There have been delayed processes, but we are working hard on fast-tracking those where there's been a delay. This delay is something that I was talking about earlier on. We sit, we agree, but when people are on their own, they then there's this and that which clearly plays itself out as a lack of skills, lack of performance overall on the side of those who are implementers. In some cases, including in this case, Umhlatuze Water Board, and then we are addressing that now, by and large, directly from head office, because of the delays that we have experienced and weaknesses that have been identified. But we also are happy that Mkhumazi project is now on course. We have recently held a meeting with eThekwini, Msunduze, Mgungundlovu, Ukuilembe, and Herikwala district municipalities and the metro. And finally, we've agreed on the offtake in a reduced situation as they requested, and has been negotiated since February. It has now been finalized in terms of their offtake and cushioning them against expenses that would ensue. And therefore, from now to December, we have clearly identified what they need to do, what we need to do, in order to get specific funding now for that, so that we start somewhere next year on work on the ground. But it's substantial progress, this one, very important, because if we delay this further, it would mean that by 2027, those municipalities in this, will run short of water, and it will create a disaster for eThekwini and Pietermaritzburg areas, but also these other municipalities. And so we're happy that we've made progress. We also are talking about intervening in Nelson Mandela Bay in the metro. I've spoken about that. I must say that since we intervened in about April in Nelson Mandela, there's progress. And the municipality is really even improving on compliances in a number of areas. And we've been able up to now to avert day zero. And we need to up our game, including with Kocha municipality up in the west, and deal with our processes there. So, but we're happy with progress. But there are a number of interventions that need to be done in the medium to long term, which we aimed at the workshop, and have been agreed in terms of what other additional water schemes need to be added. Whether the drought continues or it doesn't continue, the fact is we need a stability on water at Nelson Mandela, and we can't fail there. We just have to succeed going forward. And the final aspect that I want to address is institutional arrangements as far as water is concerned. One, we're happy that we have presented the bill on the National Water Resource Infrastructure Agency, which was decided on long ago by Cabinet. We finally prepared the bill and we presented to Cabinet. It was approved. We are now at consultation stage with the public on the agency to deliver infrastructure overall. It will include TCTA, which is one institution that we're using in the Lesotho Highlands Water Project, and it will infuse into this agency so that we have one big national agency that will take on key strategic and mega infrastructure, water infrastructure in the country. This is progress. The second area of progress is on the regulator. There's been a debate that the Department of Water and Sanitation is a player and a referee in the sector, or when it comes to water in the country. We have now established the regulator, which couldn't come in the form of an SOE, because if we established another SOE, it would take money, divert it into managing the expenses of the SOE, buildings, personnel, and all of that. But we took an alternative that we hope will inspire confidence and will also drive independence of thought on the side of ourselves and our clients, and see this mechanism as something workable. So what the department will do will serve as a secretariat to an otherwise a number of commissioners that are independent and will work independently, and we are setting them up. In fact, they have been identified, 11 of them, and will work. That institution will then work as a regulator. Once things have stabilized, maybe coming to the future, they will maybe they can work independently, but for now, they can work separately, maybe as a different institution. But for now, we just had to build that relationship with them so that we cushion further escalation of expenses which we have to keep in delivery of water. That's the regulator, and therefore we're happy that we now have a healthy regulatory framework in the form of that institution, which others have been calling for. Now, the next one is water rights, which is the issue that has evolved over time across the country, from the apartheid era to the democratic era. Water rights were very restricted in South Africa and racialized and so on, with limited potential to advance the interests of those who were discriminated against, meaning the black people in the country. And therefore, we are seeking to accelerate the transformation in this regard. And we are working with the Water Tribunal, and we're wanting to set up a workshop towards, somewhere in September, to look into a number of issues that are outstanding in this matter. We are aware that the tribunal have more than 300 cases that are outstanding. Obviously, one of the ways that we have to look at is to look at mechanisms to strengthen and facilitate resolution of these cases, because they are blocking access to water rights for a number of people and affecting the economy, which we need to release and unleash in the situation in which we are. And so the workshop will be focusing on that, and also looking at outstanding concerns of water rights in the country, including in particular the transfers, which are a subject, yesterday it was a subject of the Constitutional Court, and we are yet to find out how the Constitutional Court decided on the matter. We didn't have time to follow up this morning, but yesterday the case was on, and we need to the workshop will take into account whatever will have been decided by the Constitutional Court, where the issue in particular is what happens when somebody who would have received a water license from Water and Sanitation, when they sell land or when land is transferred to another owner. The debate is some people say I must retain the license with me and not transfer it to the one who has now acquired the land right, and which we have a problem with, because land must go with the license. But we will look at the Constitutional Court judgment on this matter, which in my view could have been resolved outside, were it not some of the ideologies that have been held on over time, and the temptation of wanting to make money with a license that you would have obtained for a legitimate cause, and then in the course of time you lose legitimacy of holding on to a particular license, granting you use or access of an X amount of water which you no longer use or you no longer require. This is something that we need to address definitely. And then in conclusion, we just want to say that this is where we are in summary. I've taken long, but it was necessary because we want to inspire confidence there that we are overcoming, we are aware of challenges first, but not one challenge will remain unresolved and not overcome. We are instead expanding on mechanisms to deliver and therefore overcome quite a number of challenges that otherwise were there or are there. Our prime time to actually showcase what we've been doing will be about end of September, October, throughout October and November. There we're crossing fingers and saying that we will arrive and we will see substantial work being delivered on what we've been doing. But on some cases, we'll still need to be a little bit patient. But this will include hotspots that we've referred to, which we are ready to tackle head on and resolve. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the questions and answers section. May I kindly just request that prior to you asking your question, can I just ask you to state your name as well as the media house that you represent? We will start the first round of questions with the ones on the floor, and then we will have the minister or the delegated authority responding to those, and then we will move on to the questions on the virtual platform. So just by a show of hands, then I will just allocate numbers. We'll have number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. So in that order, please.
Thank you so much. Good morning. It's former athlete from Newsroom Africa. I just want to know, Minister, why did it take so long for the issue around Hammanskraal to be dealt with? I mean, you do mention the issue of Tshwane and what's happening now, but why did it have to take so long for those residents to be felt like they have been forgotten by the department? That's the one. The other is around Tsakane in the city of Ekurhuleni. There's consistent water scarcity there where people have had to, and it seems there's no communication as to what's happening in that area. I don't know if you have been briefed as to what the situation is within Ekurhuleni when it comes to water scarcity and why some areas like Tsakane go days without water and they're relying on water tanks, sometimes that they don't even get. Thank you.
Thank you, Tsekho. We can move on to the next questions.
It's Nelson Mchunu from Power FM News. I just, the one is a clarity second question on the Giyani Water Project. Are you saying that completion will be by February 2023, or is that just a portion of it being completed? And the second question, it was a bit covered by my colleague Tsekho. On Hammanskraal, you say you're engaging the city of Tshwane. What seems to be the problem there? What is the issue exactly that's making it difficult for the Department of Water and Sanitation, also the city of Tshwane, to find common ground on the issue? It's been a problem for quite some time now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm from ENC. Minister, I just wanted to ask on the issue of Gqeberha Day Zero. You are saying as a department that you've managed to avert Day Zero, but on the ground people are saying different things. And they're actually saying that the taps are running dry. There's an issue of water shortages all over Gqeberha. So I just want to understand, what is the intervention that you as a department are bringing to this issue of Gqeberha, and in terms of how, going forward, what assurance can you give to residents there as far as water shortages are concerned? We know that the drought is still continuing, but what would the department say as an assurance to residents there when it comes to the issue of water shortages?
Thank you. Can we get the last questions?
From SABC. Minister, talking of residents in Tongat, apparently they've been without water for about 6 months. Were you aware of the period for which they've been without enough water? And apart from strengthening the delivery of water via tankers, what other interventions will you be looking at?
Thank you very much. Minister?
Thank you very much. We have the colleagues here, deputy ministers, who will intervene on other matters, especially Ekurhuleni, Tsakane, and others that I may identify, but they will be free to fill up as well. Let me start with Hammanskraal. let me just tell the truth here. We believe that the city of Tshwane has unjustifiably been resistant to providing clean water as they are supposed to the people, to part of the people of Hammanskraal. Hammanskraal alone is supplied by 3 suppliers of water as a community. One is by Magalies Water Board, which has done well in the area of their supply. There are no complaints there. The second one has been Rand Water, which have been doing well on the area of supply. But where there's been failure, and there's still failure, is in the area supplied by the city of Tshwane. The city of Tshwane has been assessed by us in terms of their capacity to deliver on clean water and sanitation services on their part. The whole system, the dam, the river, the pumps, and the treatment, their treatment plants. They have been found to have reasonable skill. In other words, they have capacity in terms of human resource. Number 2, they have been found to have money, and to this effect, we have had the assurance. We have met Treasury, and Treasury has advised that where we were seeking money to intervene directly, we rather opt out for talking to Tshwane because they have enough money. That's what Treasury informed us and assured us on. Tshwane has money to rehabilitate and fix whatever needs to be fixed in their system. But they've been resisting to do this for reasons known to them, not known to any other person. They have not been dealing with their responsibility on these matters. Now, following those substantial discussions with them and Treasury, where Treasury said, DWS, we are not giving you any money, new money. Let us use money that Tshwane has as a city. This is what has been dragging the situation, because city of Tshwane had been dragging their feet in terms of performing their responsibility when they have both human resource and financial resource, which has been totally unacceptable, totally unjustifiable. That is why we now are where we are, to say we're close to agreeing, and according to officials, we would have agreed long ago with this, or some time ago, were it not them dragging their feet a little bit on this matter. But we are in negotiations with them, and we are close to resolving the matter. And then there will be an agreement, and we seek to escalate it to a court order so that everybody is forced to comply on their responsibilities. That is Hammanskraal. Now, Tsakane, it is true that there have been a problem here, but it more has to do with scarcity of water, which would mean that we need to have to that township, which means that we have to engage the Metropolitan of Ekurhuleni to see how water systems that supply the whole of the East Rand or Ekurhuleni Metro could support one another, so that there is no one single area that is isolated and can't get water. Power FM, Giyani. Now, Giyani, we are saying it's just a few months before the gear, before Bakia, because they are Giyani. when water arrives. The completion date here is October 2022. But the aspect that takes us to February next year is Malamlele, because Malamlele will get treated water from the plant that is existing there of 60 megaliters, while we are augmenting it with another 60 megaliters, the very one that exists and is functional. We are seeking to draw treated water to Malamlele. But there's been a little bit of a delay to building a reservoir there, and that will be completed in February next year. But water reticulation to that place, 3 months ago, it was just 3 kilometers away from Malamlele, which will mean that as we get water to Malamlele, and then we need to complete that reservoir, and then after that, they will be able to get water. So it's just two different things, but we treat them as one major schemes. Actually, there are two pipes from Nandoni. Both of them go towards the from Nandoni to the I would say to the southern part. Goes to the south, but somewhere along the line, I think after crossing Livuv River, then there's a pipe that tends to the right to Malamlele, a smaller pipe, while the other one that goes to Mopane proceeds, which is a bigger pipe, which I'm saying is just less than 4 kilometers away from Mopane. So I hope I'm making ourselves clear on this matter, and I hope that I've covered your other question, which is Hammanskraal. Mangoba, water shortages. In Gqeberha, we're also on the ground, together with those who say they're on the ground. We have done interventions there, a number of interventions. Let me count them. The first one was to reduce abstraction of water from whatever level that the two systems that supply Gqeberha are at the moment. There are two systems. The first one is Kocha Luri Dam or system, but the second one is Mpofu Churchill Dam. So we say whatever water that remains in the two systems, abstraction must be reduced to the bare minimum, because you can almost see the flow of when you go to each one of these four dams. That is the extent to which there is reduced water. At one point, it was raining there, and when we got there, and I spoke to Manas to say, we're arriving with rain here, and it's all systems go. And Manas said, Minister, it is raining in the city, not in the mountains, and therefore there's no water that is getting into the dams. And I was very disappointed with that. I thought that because we were getting wet, the dams were filling up, and it was not the case, and he was right. So the first thing, therefore, that we've had to intervene on, reduce abstraction. Whatever abstraction we may still have to do there, but very, very minimal. To a point where Churchill Dam we've had to move the pumps towards the wall, just to remain on an abstraction mode, but very little is pumped because of the levels of water there. So that's the first intervention, reduce abstraction or restrict abstraction. The second intervention is to close leaks substantially. That city had more than 6,000 leaks, and we still are not over, but we have closed more than 3,000. We have moved in terms of forcing the city to reduce leaks, because you can't be a city that is dry for 7 years, but you also leak water at the same time. It's not understandable. That is work that is continuing as they identify new leaks or new leak areas. So it's ongoing. But in the workshop that we held on Tuesday, it's clear that we now have to move towards looking at their infrastructure on a medium to long-term basis, refurbish, upgrade, and rebuild infrastructure there, because it's clear if the system leaks 6,000 times, it would mean that there are no pipes. There's not one single pipe that is tight there. It would mean there are holes all over. They are small and they rupture anytime. And we have gone there to see that on the ground. And so this is the second intervention. Firstly, close leaks, but now move towards investigating the whole of the infrastructure in terms of pipes, and then start acting on that. That's the second intervention. Third intervention, we've had to balance water in the eastern part of the city with that of the western part of the city via Noordgedacht water scheme. In March this year, end of March this year, the Noordgedacht water scheme, which draws water from Harib in the Free State, down the canals, the rivers, and all of that, down to Gqeberha, into the water treatment plant in Noordgedacht. That scheme was completed, and it started getting water, 70 megaliters, into Gqeberha. Now, that scheme gets water into the eastern part of the city. We now have refurbished other water treatment plants, especially the Wanobuhle one, so that it can then get water to the western parts of the city, which is now happening. But it is going to incrementally happen as that water treatment plant gets commissioned fully in terms of refurbishment. This is the third intervention. The second intervention, the fourth intervention, has been to deal with restrictions. Now, you restrict water at abstraction, you get water into the system. But then what happens is that people don't feel the squeeze that really there's no water in Gqeberha because of the 7-year drought. And so they go to showers. They shower like any other person anywhere in the Republic. They turn around in the shower for as long as they can. And if you drive around the streets of Gqeberha, all the cars are clean. And you say, why do they get water to clean these cars? Because they're all shiny. I'm not taking angry issue about that. Everybody wants a clean car. But where do they get water to do that? We have to come to terms with the fact that there's no water there. There's no water there. And therefore, we are getting to restrict supply of water per household, so that you are restricted to a certain amount of water in your home, beyond which water just gets cut. They are implementing those via meters. That's intervention number 5. Intervention number 6, it's boreholes. We have invited the private sector to intervene as well. And Coca-Cola has come to the fore. They have drilled 9 boreholes, which they've equipped, they're fenced, and they're operational. All right? After that, there is also gift of the givers, who have built, drilled, and operationalized, I think, about 20, if not more, boreholes, which are functional. One of them was the one we went to in a hospital there, which was quite functional, and pumping water to the surface, treated water, and then getting it for use. Government itself, that is local and national combined. In Kuchakop, there's an area just outside the city, in the western side. 5 boreholes have been drilled there, and unfortunately, water there has manganese and iron. And a plant has been built there to clean water off manganese and iron. 5 more boreholes will be built close to those ones, and they will be combined to supply water to the same treatment plant, treating it of manganese and iron still. We want to escalate the output there to about 25 megaliters. For now, it will be at just about 12 megaliters, and we think it can be upgraded up to 25. And if we can do that, that will increase substantially the amount of water that is available and supplied to Gqeberha. Now, if people at Gqeberha say we have shortage of water, we will need to go to that individual, that household, that section, and see what else needs to be done, and maybe we need to drill another borehole close to where they are. But there may be meaning that there are restrictions. At some stage they don't get water and so on, as opposed to saying there's just no water at all. This is what we have been able to do in Gqeberha, and we are continuing to do it as we seek to address the issue of drought on an ongoing basis there. We are thinking of phase 4, which will receive our attention going forward. To start there, ideally we should, that treatment plant in Noord-Gedacht should pump about 190 megaliters per day into Gqeberha. Once we reach that stage, we'll be stable with water in that city, whether there's drought or not drought. That is the ideal stage that we should get into, and we'd rather start earlier than later. That is in response to your question. So what assurance can we give? The assurance that we are giving is that all the boreholes that we have drilled there, ourselves and the private sector, are functional and they're pumping water to the surface. What we can assure the public there is that the 70 megaliters out of the Noord-Gedacht waterworks is something that is on course. It is there. It is supplying water, but on a reduced basis. So we are intervening, mitigating, but they must understand overall that we're in drought there for 7 years. And if you are in drought for 7 years with very little rain, adding water into your water resources, it means that you have to behave yourself accordingly and understand and accept that you are affected as a household and as an individual. Change your attitude, change the way you behave. You use water. It's a scarce commodity, a very scarce commodity there than in the rest of the country, and therefore we have to behave accordingly. Use water sparingly because it is reality there. That's what we have to do. So we are assuring them that while we do something to avert day zero, postpone day zero, the public there, the people there have a responsibility to correct their behavior and so on. Then the last one, Tongaat, have we been aware? Let's qualify 6 months without water or 4 months without water. I saw the deputy mayor, I saw the mayor explaining this to the public, to the rest of South Africa and to the people of Tongaat, that since the damage done to the water treatment plant there that was supplying 21 megaliters, which was wiped out by the storm, there have been efforts to supply water via trucks, via static tanks in strategic areas in Hambanati, in other areas around Tongaat that were supplied, that were getting water via that water treatment plant, which has now been wiped out, unfortunately, by the storm. Now, people have had issues about how the trucks deliver water. Sometimes late, sometimes not at all in a particular area. this in accordance with how eThekwini are managing the trucks, which I must admit, it has not been up to the standard that we discussed in the war room there, where we said each truck must be monitored via via an electronic gadget, so that you are able to say, this is the truck, it is filling up water for so many minutes, it is now going out. It will link up as soon as it arrives in Tongati with Councillor so-and-so, who will alert the public that the truck is now there, and then they can go collect water. And other trucks will be filling up the static tanks, so that at no stage should people go without water, trucked water. And but of course, it may be real that there may not have been a situation where you have enough number of trucks supplying water such that there could be a shortage at some point or the other during the day and so on. So we've been aware that the water treatment plant was wiped out and then substituted by trucked water and static and water from static tanks, from which they have been fetching water. But we are aware that the public there is demanding piped water, because they're used to piped water. That's how life is there. It is an urban kind of setup where people would have been receiving water all the time, and so they find it irritating, they find it unsettling, and they are uncomfortable with the situation where they've got to fetch water or depend on trucked water with its challenges all the time. This is what we are saying. So we need to qualify. There's a difference between people who are without water at all and people whose water supply has been variated via this means that we are saying. We're addressing that together with eThekwini municipality, even this afternoon, and we will look at one more or one way or the other to get very close to meeting their expectations, so that they are not heavily affected as they are at the moment. So, in other words, we agree there is a matter to be sorted out in Otongat, and we're not deaf. We hear what the people are saying, and we want to make an effort to respond to their plight and to their expectation. That is the reality of the matter. We need to find a way, and that's what we're working on and hoping to fill up. Thank you very much, and if DMs want to fill up something, they can. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Before we go to the other questions on the virtual platform, I will just read out the question I have directed to Deputy Minister Mahlobo. It's two questions. Would the Deputy Minister agree that a partnership with the private sector is an indication that government does not have plans to take full responsibility for providing water to struggling communities? The second question, what about communities that do not have private sector investment activities like mining, as compared to the example of Mogalakwena partnership with multinational mining companies? The other questions are going to be read out by Takalani from GCIS.
Thank you. I have 6 questions here that are coming from data from Business Day, and the last question will be coming from within from Network 24. And the first question is how far has the department gone in clearing the backlog of water license applications? And the following question is, what is the total amount that municipalities owe water boards, and what is being done to address the situation? And the following question, do water boards currently have the power to raise loans, and if not, what is being done to give them this power, and will this power be unlimited? And the following question, will national government guarantee water board loans? And the following question, can the minister please elaborate on what the envisaged role of PPPS is in water delivery will be, and when will the first tender for this be issued, and for which project? And what will be the role of water regulator? And the last from my side, from Willing from Network 24. And the question is, can the minister please elaborate on the issue of water that is being stolen in the country, and how big is this problem? Thank you.
Okay. Is there a question that you would like him to repeat? Okay. I think we will start off with Deputy Minister Mahlobo.
Thank you very much. To Minister Mchunu, DM Magatsi, and the acting DG Ntabiseng, and the entire team, and our colleagues. The issue around partnerships is our appreciation that His Excellency, the President of the Republic, is through his presidency directed us that we do need a social compact in resolving the plethora of challenges our country has. And the question of water is one of the things that is so important in terms of our economy. If you look at the South Africa's Economic Reconstruction Recovery Plan, this economy is not going to work if water is one of the issues that has not been attended to in terms of water security. Because water is the biggest input with respect to our socio-economic needs, including the environment. And if we look at the issues of the requirements around ensuring water security, if you look at our National Water and Sanitation and Master Plan, to be able to guarantee the availability of water for the next 8 years, which is until to 2030, and then in the next 20 years until 2050, there are a number of big projects that must stimulate our economy. And these projects, we must agree, like Umkomazi is one of the examples the minister has spoken to, that will actually require more than 20 billion rands. You look at the work that we should be doing at Umzimvubu, Glen Williams, and everywhere. And our estimation is that for the next 10 years, the department will require, just to ensure water security, will require more than 120 billion rands. And when you look at the present value, and you will know that the present value today, and by the time we arrive at that point in terms of the future value, then that becomes a present value, the expenses will be very high. And if you look at the money we have that is coming from the fiscus, that money is not adequate. That's why private sector is an important role player that must play its part. That's why if you look at how South Africa, in terms of these presidents, there is an infrastructure office in the office of the president headed by Dr. Sputler Ramhoop, working with the DPSA and the others, including the budget in a infrastructure facility in Treasure. Our department, led by Minister Mchunu, we have understood that with the limited resources, it will take us time to guarantee the availability of water for all our needs. Therefore, we have started to use that particular opportunity. The example of the water situation in the Northern Cape. Northern Cape, one of the biggest opportunities they have is to stimulate the economy through mining. And those mines have came together working with the minister. There was a phase 1 to throw the water in terms of Valga Mahara, using the valve system, which is one of the biggest systems. And that agreement is one of the biggest demonstrations that partnerships will work. And you can be able to use partnership because you want to reduce the money in the fiscus. But when they come in, there's always a win-win situation to ensure that the water that must be available for domestic use of human consumption, which is a human rights, it still remains affordable. That's why the state is coming into that project. There are many of them. You look at the question even supporting agriculture. Private sector want to come in when you look at the biggest water canal we have that traverse in the Northern Cape until towards northwest. It's called the Valhards, that canal. And the minister has engaged with private sector, including the farmers, to say how do we ensure water security for food production and food security, but at the very same time, where the water infrastructure crisscross around communities they're able to tap into the water resource. The very same issue around partnership, we are saying that even what we call it grey water or brown water, it can actually be converted into wealth. The example where certain industries can be able to use effluent, which is one of the issues that has happened in a rural municipality. Mukhalakwana is rural. And that rural municipality has no money in terms of the revenue base. But there is a potential because of the mineral endowment. The intervention by Minister late last year in December and early this year in January, where an agreement was signed, we're able to ensure that Ivan plans in terms of its investment projections of between 4 to 10 billion rands are actually to be contained here in the country. What is an advantage? The advantage is that for the first time, an infrastructure is going to be upgraded. Because for it to be upgraded, you need the money needs more volumes around that wastewater to be able to do its mining operation. The municipality will have a plant. But they are not only going to be doing that for that rural community. If there is a plant, in other words, all those housing developments that could not take place because there's an absence of bulk wastewater system, that problem is being resolved. And it's going to be a win-win situation. But they are also committing on the basis that on the raw water provision, they will also do an additional plant because people, they need potable water for other uses. And this is some of these aspects that we need to do. But the ANC-led government, in instances where communities and municipalities, they don't have sufficient resources, this government will continue to protect the poor, especially in terms of our social security net. We will still continue the ANC-led government policy of free basic water. There is free basic water, which is 6 kiloliters, that every municipality, in terms of the equitable share, they will be able to receive that particular money. So that at least those communities that don't have this possibility of partnership, the state takes the responsibility. But we must also be able to say, those that are using the 6 kiloliters, they will have to change behavior. We can't use water as if there's too much water in abundance. We have to limit it. The state is going to still continue to provide support to municipalities in terms of funding. There is MIG, the Municipal Infrastructure Guarantee, and the biggest component, just to develop water infrastructure. You will have that question of a 50% that is being set aside. In our own case, led by Minister Mchunu, there is a grant that will still, the department will still be able to manage that are not adequate, which is the Water Services Improvement Grant, to look at the existing infrastructure, including the Regional Bulk Infrastructure Grant. But the municipalities themselves, in terms of rates and taxes, we also encourage that they should be able to do that particular investment. One of the things that we also is being asked is about water licensing. Remember, at the time when the minister was doing his budget vote and policy statement, we indicated that we've been able to push the backlog in terms of addressing the water licenses that were there. to within the 90 days that the president has actually directed us to do. That backlog, we've actually reduced it. We've done even more than 90% that were remaining. But the backlog that we need to attend to is what the minister says. Those that have went into a dispute resolution mechanism, the dispute resolution mechanism that are sitting with the Water Tribunal. And very shortly, the leadership through minister, we should engage with the tribunal. Some of them, we should be able to withdraw them from the tribunal and be able to find ways in terms of dealing with some of these issues. The last point, the stealing of water is a problem. There are people in South Africa that are causing problems, that they are impeding the flow of water. And in the main, this problem is done by some individuals in the agricultural sector. You'll find that it has been raining on a particular catchment, especially in Limpopo. You could see that if you look at the Groot Letaba, the Great Letaba there in Mopani, we have your Zanini Dam and the other dams that are there. Certain of these farmers, they've created illegal dams. And these illegal dams that they are creating, then the communities that are living downstream, they continue not to have water. And our regulation team and our enforcement team will be able to do the bleeds. We will take those people into task, ensure that those dams are dismantled. But we are also building our capacity to have the eyes in the skies, so that the issues of the building of illegal dams is dealt very decisively. But we are not going to be looking at the issues of only stealing of water, because even some municipalities, they steal water. You find that there's a water license. One day, Minister, they were confessing to you, I'm not going to say this municipality here because we look bad. They were saying that the license makes a provision for particular volumes, but they are extracting more. We want to send a message that stealing water is a crime. It will be treated as such. And those that are abstracting more, we are giving them an opportunity to confess and come up so that they can be able to request through the application of a water use license for those particular volumes that they need. It's the right thing to do, that they need to be able to do. The last point is what, Minister, you spoke about, the issues of constitutional court. There are people who are having more water than they need, especially the agricultural sector. We don't want agricultural sector to die in our country, but we need to be able to use the breadth advances in technology to start to use less water and produce more. There are certain catchments where in a particular province, in Limpopo in particular, in the Vembe district, 88% Minister of Water is used by agriculture. 7% is only used for industry and mining, and only 2% is only used for domestic use. The issue for domestic use is a constitutional matter. It's a human rights matter. It's in Chapter 2. No South African must be denied the right to access to water. And it's in the interest of the other users to share. And if they don't want to share, the minister has all the powers in law to ensure that we address the skewed allocation, because we cannot continue in our own country to have those people who have more and others have nothing. And the National Water Act is very clear. It has a provision to support the constitution around the water as a human right. There is something that is called a reserve. The reserve in the main, it makes provision for human use or human consumption. Then there is for the environment and the Khokakis. And then there is also for the international obligation and also for strategic use. Under this leadership by Minister, supported by the two of us, water allocation reform and transformation is not going to be postponed because we'll be violating the imperatives of the Constitution. Thank you, Kam.
Thank you very much. Well said, dear Mahlobo. Just to fill up some of the issues. One is what is the amount owed to water boards? I don't have it in my fingers, but I can tell you that one municipality owes one water board 7 billion. Now the rest are below that. I think the other figure that we're aware of, I think, is about 4 billion and so on. So it's huge amounts of money. Some even threatening the whole system, the whole sector, as it were. It is for this reason that we want water boards not just to be interested in selling water and getting money, but also to say, where does this money come from? Where does it come from? And how does it come? So that they too can continue to get money in a sustainable way, rather than just getting money even if the source of money dies out. It won't be of assistance. So we need to care for the whole sector and for the whole cycle and be alive to it. Second one is this question, TCTA. I think I heard something like tenders and so on. Well, as far as TCTA is concerned, we are just at the point where we are getting to phase 2, and I think it will be a tunnel and a dam. Lusenga knows better, and then we are going to get to phase 2. We are removing all the obstacles. The only one that is left is for us to meet the Minister of Water in Namibia. We are doing so over the next few days. There is an agreement that we will meet face to face, so that they can respond to the matter and hopefully give us a go-ahead to start phase 2 of Lesotho Highlands Water Project. That will open the way to starting, and I think that will go with tenders and all of that. If I could answer that or take it as answered. What's the role of the regulator? The role of the regulator is to stabilize tariffs, water tariffs, so that for those who are paying for water, to those who are paying for water, it becomes fair. For those who are charging for the services that they render on water, which is municipalities, which is water boards, which is ourselves, all of it is reasonable. It is fair and justifiable, so that there isn't anyone who wants to make unreasonable profits on water and kill others. This issue that Mahlobo is dealing with has dealt with issue of licenses. A person would have received a license to get or to abstract so many kiloliters, and then if you no longer need that because of age or you sell, you can't just keep on charging, getting money out of your license. But land is now occupied by somebody and it is accumulating expenses. And then you sell water. It is the department that owns water and not somebody given a license, especially if you no longer use it for that particular purpose, especially if you transfer land to somebody else. It's unfair to make money out of that and to make a scheme out of it. It's like a pyramid scheme, which we can't allow to do. That's why we will be holding a workshop And we are going to be asking the department to give us all the data in this regard, transferring and so on. There can't be a pyramid making money for one person out of a scheme that is not legitimate. Well, the Mahlobo dealt with this. To be specific, we have just about 186 outstanding licenses to process. We're emphasizing on this 90 days now, and it's working very well. The backlog, most of the backlog, as far as the last time we checked, was in the Western Cape. All other offices are processing and are proceeding very well in terms of eliminating backlogs, and it's working very well. But we are saying that there's more than just 90%. There's issues of transfer, issues of fairness, issues of rights of water that we are now proceeding to. Thank you very much. Well, there's the issue of stolen water. Mahlobo has put it very well. You are guilty, even before we get to you. You must just understand that you are guilty, and we will approach you with that in mind, that you are possibly guilty for stealing. And people know who are pumping water illegally. Thank you.
We forget the one that is stolen by the water.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our media briefing. I would like to thank the Minister and the Deputy Ministers, as well as the Acting Director General for their attendance. I would also like to thank the members of the media for their attendance and participation. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
I thought you'd say water is served. You deny us water.
So we need water for the residents. We ourselves, we're okay. We have an interview, a telephonic interview. So I'm hoping when you're on the